Okay, so welcome to episode 12 of Men Matter Scotland podcast. Remember, you can get Men Matter Scotland support on Twitter at Men Scotland or on Facebook at Men Matter Scotland. If you're struggling and things are getting a bit too much, simply drop us either a DM or a PM and we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can. Lockdown's tough and there's loads of guys out there who are really struggling. You're not alone. There's loads of us struggling as well, so please get in touch. You can find these podcasts on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Facebook, and I cannot remember where else in now, but it'll come to me. So, my name's Peter. I'm the chairperson of Men Matter Scotland, and I'm doing the podcast. And I'd like this gentleman to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Christopher McCourtney. I'm 25. I come from Blardardie. I work in a biological safety testing lab, which is located in Maryhill, and I've been doing that since January of last year. So we currently test for test vaccines and different, which also includes the COVID-19 vaccines.
So, going to say your job title again, Chris?
It's an associate scientist.
Now, why don't you say what you just said a minute ago?
Aye, a biosafety testing.
Mate, that sounds like a pure mad tongue twister.
Aye, it is, especially when you're drunk.
Superb, mate. So, Chris, we've got you on. You've been part of Men Matter for a wee bit now, and you've volunteered to do the podcast, like a few other guys have done. What's made you want to do the podcast?
I wanted to do the podcast to share my story and my experiences with mental health, and hopefully to encourage other people who are maybe struggling to reach out for help, and show that they're not alone with their struggles.
Mm-hmm. So Chris, you're part of the LGBT community. How important is it to get the message out there to other young people? Not just young people, just other people in general, because I'm sure there's loads of adults who are struggling with it as well. How important is it to get that message out there?
It's very important, because being part of the LGBT community is very important. It's something to be celebrated, being part of the community, being different, and it's important that you are who you are and you embrace that.
Definitely, man. And again, that's something we really strongly promote at Men Matter. You can't truly be happy unless you're truly who you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that's about accepting yourself and loving yourself no matter what. So I think it's brilliant you're doing this podcast, mate, and getting that message out there, because the last two podcasts we've done have reached thousands and thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure this one will do the same. I mean, and it's about just sharing with people that they're not alone, and there's other people with through experiences, they've come out the other end, they're better for it, and it's not always dark and scary, although it might seem that way.
Yeah, because I've known that I've read so many stories, and I know of people who have struggled in the past with their sexuality, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. Who you are is who you are, and there's you need to love and accept yourself.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, mate, you're spot on. Right, so come to your questions. I've got a wee list of questions here we're going to run through. Answer them, just about a normal conversation, mate. So, number one, Christopher McCourtney, what was life like growing up in Blardardie?
Well, I grew up for the first 10 years of my life in Drumchapel. I lived there with my parents up in Glenkirk. And then we moved down to Blardardie in 2005, and we've been here since. I had a really happy childhood. Like, I've got two older brothers, and they grew up in Drumchapel, and they obviously know what it's like. But I'm not as old enough to know the ins and outs of Drumchapel, but I still know Drumchapel well enough because I've spent most of my life in the surrounding areas. But I had a very happy childhood growing up, so moving down to Blardardie, so I've always lived in the surrounding areas, Drumchapel, Blardardie, Knightswood areas, because my gran lives. I went to school in Knightswood.
Okay, nice one, mate. So, when did you realise, Chris, that you were part of the LGBT community?
I realize, thinking back, I've always known, but I never actually properly realised until I had maybe about 13, 14. Um, and growing up and being a teenager for anyone's a confusing time, especially when you're trying to figure yourself out. And then when I was in school, people always used to say, "Are you gay? Are you gay?" And I would deny it because I wasn't truly accepting of the fact, and I didn't really know myself.
So, was this primary school, Chris?
No, in secondary school when I was
I've got to turn the
15.
battery light on, hold on. Come back. So, secondary school, aye. Okay, on you go then, mate.
Yeah, secondary school, like in primary school, I never really knew. It was more towards secondary school when I had teenage years. So when I first came out when I was 15, that was about 10 years ago. And I was in school, and people for quite a while had asked me, "Are you gay? Are you gay?" And I was like, "No," because I wasn't really accepting it myself. And then I was sitting in maths, and this was one day I was sitting in maths, and it came up in conversation, and I had enough of just people trying to make a subject a conversation. And then I finally just admitted it, and I just went, "Yeah, I am." And it was one of the regrets that I had was the lunchtime. It had went round the whole year, and by the end of the day, the whole year knew. The lunchtime, it went through the whole class, and then I never really understood the consequences of what I'd actually come out and said. So I was the talk of the town for quite a while, and it was I then after it I'd realised, wow, the consequences of what actually happened. And it was a dark time because there was a lot of people sort of looking at you differently because you've made this bold move. Obviously I had my close friends who were there for me. Other people were obviously a bit, how do I put, picky and snidey. Others wanted to be my friend just because I was gay, like a lot of girls do. So it was a very weird situation to be in. And that day that I came home and I wanted to tell my parents that because I had this burst of energy because I'd done it in school, that I'd came out, that I just wanted to do it. But then I wasn't really sure about the reaction I would get because I got a lot of mixed reactions in school. So I kept it, and that continued on for a while. And then I had what happened was about maybe a year or something down the line. I had a friend who she found out off of someone else that had a crush on her, and she basically dumped me as a friend because she was confused. And she said, "Oh, I thought you were gay and I can't be friends with you." And that really broke my heart. And obviously I was quite upset about it because I wasn't out to my parents. I couldn't really tell them what was going on. But so I let the dust settle, and I realised that I actually was attracted to both men and women. And I realised that around the age of about 17, 18, and that's when I told my best friend and a few of my other close friends. So I continued on, and none of my family knew. And then one day I'd been chatting to people online and that had been out, and they were out to their families. And I went, I feel like I'm living a double life here, because I was out to my friends and I felt like I wasn't out to my family. So I felt like I was leading a double life. So I went, no, I've had enough. And when I was 19, I remember the day, it was Wednesday, the 10th of September 2014, that I came out to I woke up that morning and I went, today's the day that I'm telling my parents. So I volunteered in the British Heart Foundation in Byres Road at the time. So I got the bus along there and volunteered for a couple of hours, and then what I did was I got the bus to my grand's she lives in Knightswood, and I used to have lunch with her before I went up the road home, and then I plucked up the courage to tell her first, and she was really accepting, and then I came home, and before, like, I sat with my family after dinner and watched TV. And before we started watching TV, I said to them, I've got something to tell you, and that I'm bi. And then just those words just felt like a massive weight off my shoulders, just saying that. And I sort of, it's one of those moments where I can remember it, but it was just that it's hazy in the sense that I was just that worked up and anxious about it, that getting those words out were so stressful. And for a lot of people, it is very tough to come out. And I'm lucky that I've had a big support network for coming out, and my family were very supportive. Because a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the main things I want to ask you, right, when you first came out in school and you were the talk of the school,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm a youth worker as a job, right? See, if I hear that's happened, I'm looking for the young person to ask them how they're getting on. Did you get any support for your school when that happened?
Well, directly no, but kind of indirectly yes. Because I think that when I had maths, that was the period just before lunch. But I had lunch and then I had French after it, and basically I said it again, but I had just this buzz because people were kind of happy about it, and they found it entertaining. And I was confused myself, and my best friend, who's at the time and who's still my best friend, the teacher actually held him back, and said to him, "You need to look out for him," and that is a nice thing to do. But directly, I never got any support from the school. Again, it's not that I don't ever remember getting any direct support or any special talking to from the school.
And do you think at that time, because you said you had a wee buzz about it and you were talking to school, and being a talker of school can be a good thing and a bad thing, but sometimes it can be a mix like you've just described. Do you think getting a wee bit of support for a principal or a guidance teacher would have been helpful for you, just for some guidance?
I think it might have been, because for any teenager growing up, for any teacher or for any teenager growing up, it can be a very confusing time, and obviously times especially within the past decade, for LGBT support has increased tremendously, and there's been a lot of work done. So maybe things are different now to when I was at school, because obviously there's more of a what you call it, like well, there's obviously a more support for LGBT people, and especially within like the transgender community who want to transition, they feel like they've been born in the wrong body. So obviously there's a lot more people coming out and getting that help. But again, I think that I was sort of still growing up in that sort of just the end phase of how do I put it? It's not as it's still quite taboo to talk about, because obviously, as I've probably as I know, hearing from other people, like growing up probably in the 90s or the 90s or 80s, that being gay or part of the LGBT community was very tough.
Yeah, definitely, man. And again, like you said, that hopefully you just hope that teachers or people who are in a position where they're looking after young people are more aware of these things, because you must have been kicking about school that day or that week or that month, whatever after it, just confused and just like you're saying, getting these nice remarks and pals coming at me. So that's one of my next questions was, what happened to your friendships with people who you were close to?
But my best friend, he stood by me through it all, and obviously girls at that point wanted a gay best friend, and then obviously I get dumped by that friend, and again it was a confusing time as well, because I didn't really know who to turn to, because some people were kind of like, yeah, but no, like they were happy for me, but then other people weren't. I think obviously because a lot of people are in the same boat, that I think they're maybe going through the same situations in their head and maybe a bit jealous of me taking that step, because I do remember people saying to me before, wow, I couldn't do anything, I couldn't do that, who later come out as part of the LGBT community. So again, it's my friendships kind of changed, but it was a bit of a dark period, that I call it, just because it was a very confusing time in my life.
And see, in retrospect, do you wish you had the opportunity to go back and come out a bit different in school?
I think so. I think I might have kept it a bit in the closet, basically, for a bit longer. But maybe I could have persevered a bit longer with just the questioning of my sexuality.
Do you think it was it maybe, not want to say a blessing in disguise, but you maybe just glad you got it and done with then and just kind of dealt with it as you went?
Although I think, yeah, kind of thinking, yeah, I might have went round a different way instead of just blurting out in the middle of the class, although it was a kind of a private conversation I was having. But I could have just went to my best friend or just one person and said it discreetly, and maybe it wouldn't have been spread around the whole year by the end of the day.
So see, with regards to your parents now, and how long did it take you to come out to them?
It took me a good few years, because
after the school.
Yeah, after the school, because that was at the age of 15. Then I sort of came out again at the age of 17 and as bi, and then it took me 2 years after that, when I was 19, to tell my parents. And it took me, because I put it off and I put it off, and then I thought I need to do this because, as I said, I feel like I'm leading a double life. I feel like I wasn't being truly myself.
Can you just kind of try and describe some of the feelings like, as a young man, with that anxiety about telling your parents that you're bi? So I couldn't imagine it. So What's it like just for any other young people watching with the same kind of predicament?
It's a scary process because obviously you hear a lot of stories like who people or families that are accepting, but then you're scared just in case you're they turn your back on you, and because I was lucky that when I came out nothing changed.
Mm-hmm.
I just said it and they were just like, right, okay. um they kind of already knew, but it's a scary process, just even saying it in front of them, because you obviously hear all these horror stories, especially there's coming out stories on YouTube, especially within America, where the families have actually kicked them out, because they're gay, or they they come out as part of the community, and that does fill you with a lot of fear.
Mm-hmm.
But to be true to yourself, and for any, like I'm not a parent myself, but if you, again, it's something I think for any parent that would need to work through it, but it's, if that's your child, that they can't, that's who your child is, you can't change it. Because obviously there's a lot of countries as well, who are totally against the LGBT community, especially Russia, or places in Africa, where you get um, prosecuted for it, and that obviously fills you with a lot of fear as well.
Well, it wasn't that long ago in this country, people were still had criminal convictions
Hmm.
on their record. I'm talking
Yeah.
about the last 10 years, I think, people still
Hmm.
had criminal records.
Yeah, because I always think of stories like in which is a very good film to watch is The Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch in it, and he plays Alan Turing, who he actually built a computer that cracked codes during World War II, and he actually was found out as gay and got chemically castrated, and ended up killing himself.
That's
Hmm.
bonkers, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
was that a British guy?
British, and he got Kemley because he cracked the codes. I think that was like in 1944, 1945, just before the end of the war, and he cracked these messages, which basically allowed intelligence to be delivered to Winston Churchill or whatnot, and then they found out later on that he was gay. He got chemically castrated in the early 50s, and I think he died in 1954 because I
Wow,
think he poisoned himself or something.
wow, that's so sad, isn't it? That's really
Yeah.
sad. Poor guy. But again, that was a sign of the times, wasn't it, as well, with the
Hmm.
kind of views on LGBT stuff.
Yeah.
Not excusable, absolutely no, but scary stuff, and some of the horror
Hmm.
stories, it's wild to me. It really is. I'd love to know, Chris, with regards to your parents and that, what gave you the confidence to commit to them?
I don't. I really. Um, I think it was actually being online and actually talking to other guys who had been in that position, had came out and everything was all right, and it kind of gave me the confidence to go, well, it's it's I just need to take those steps and do it, because I wanted to be true to myself, and I felt like I didn't want to go any longer, especially going into my 20s, and keeping that from my parents. Like some people go, well, that's my business. It's none of my parents' business. But I feel like I have a very close relationship with my parents and other family members, and I feel like I'm not actually being my true self, and I've always been with anybody my true self. So I felt like I had that day especially. I just went right. Today's the day.
Again, I'm just being super nosy. How did you do it? Did you plan it out, or did you just going to say bye?
Yeah, but it was basically like I was still very nervous and anxious about it, and we were just sitting ready to sit down to watch something, and we just before we put it on, I was like, I've got something to tell you, and then I just blurted it out, and then it was over. That was it.
Superb, man. Was it like a relief, Chris, coming off the shoulders?
Aye, it was just a relief. I just felt like a stone lighter.
Oh man,
It was, it
superb,
was,
mate.
it was, it definitely was. It was a great feeling.
And what about your wider family? Any aunties, uncles, cousins, anything like that?
Yeah, because my mum actually told my aunt, and they sort of found out second hand, but which didn't really bother me. But there's again, I've coming out as it's a process that happens more than once because you meet new people in your life and you need to tell them or you feel you would like to tell them.
Right.
So there's some people I haven't actually directly told, but they know second hand basically.
Aye, just just no for you.
Yeah, because my uncle never told me this, but my uncle said to my aunt after she told them, well, that changes nothing.
Aye, just
Because coming out changes nothing because it's just you telling them something that's a part of you. It's really like if you really love and accept your loved one, no matter who they are, then that really won't change anything.
aye. That's class, isn't it? That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's a great reaction. And I think as well, if anything, it allows you to grow your bond stronger because you're being fully who you want to be.
Yeah.
And they can get to really know the real Chris. That's class, mate. That's brilliant. So, how did you feel within yourself being part of the LGBT community?
I felt at that point in time, I didn't really know where I fitted in, but I just newly had come out and embracing myself. So it was a very weird time, but just now being part of the LGBT community is something that's really important to me. Obviously, there are obviously people who are coming out all the time, and it's a continual process, and everybody needs to feel that they belong to some group or some community, and it's important to embrace everybody within the community.
I totally agree, mate. Did you ever attend? Is it LGBT Glasgow or Scotland up the town?
I know I've never really went to any like places like that. I've been to clubs and stuff like nightclubs and stuff, but no, I've not actually been to like the actual youth or anything like that. Like when I was a teenager, I was a very antisocial, like especially within the early teenage years. I was still quite antisocial, especially as a kid. I just never really went anywhere. I always wanted to stay home, and I was one of those antisocial kids that just never went anywhere.
You like your creature comforts, mate.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it. Maybe boys the exact same. What was I going to say to you? As a cracking the question. Oh, come back to me. No, I know what I was going to say to you. So obviously everybody knows I'm a youth worker at this point, right? I work for the G15 Youth Project in Drumchapel. And in 2016, we had a wee group of guys and lassies who were hanging about each other, who were about 15, 16, and were part of the LGBT community, right? But they only came out to us. So we linked in with another youth organisation, another two, DRC and Yoka and Temple Shafton.
Mm-hmm.
And what we've done was we came up with a wee group for all, because they had young people down their neck of the woods and we had young people up our neck of the woods as well. So we decided to put a wee group together and get them all socialising and give them a wee club, so they just felt part of something and they felt still accepted. You know what I mean? Just so they didn't feel kind of outcast, which you can imagine a lot of young people would feel if they came out. But anyway, so we're in this group, and it was so weird. I thought there'd been, again, this is probably just me being, I don't know, overexcited about it, but I was just expecting these kids to come to different groups. But end up none of them come. None of them came at all. I was like so disappointed. I'm like, what an opportunity this was. But again, it's a big step. I understand it's a big step. But I was gutted they never came, because that was kind of cut after that, because it's just trying to justify people's time and money and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, that's such a waste, because we're in the west of Scotland. The only place you can go is up the town. Sorry, the west of Glasgow. The only place you can go is up the town. With a place in the west end of Glasgow was to be ideal.
Yeah, because I think there are like groups out there. It's just they're not as sort of advertised and maybe as widespread. Maybe something would have been good for me. But again, at that point in time, I was still quite antisocial. I never really went out anywhere. You get a lot of teenagers, especially ones from Drumchapel and surrounding areas, who like to go out drinking and stuff, and I was never really into that growing up. I've got two older brothers on my mum's side, and one of them is a drug addict. So obviously I know the destruction that a drug addiction causes. So I knew fine well not to go anywhere near it. So I never really experimented, just because I was scared in case that happened to me.
Yeah, I could totally get the same with that, mate. I think the only thing I've ever tried in my life is hash, and that was in Amsterdam.
Well, I only tried weed for the first time, and that was last year, and that was an experience.
I've done the worst thing. I had a hash cake just before I went to my bed.
Did pointless. I had a brownie just before I went on a plane to another country.
Not the best idea, mate.
No.
So we're going to come on to your anxiety experiences, and Chris, do you want to tell us a wee bit about that?
Yeah, I've always suffered from anxiety ever since I was a kid. I don't know where it's came from. I think everyone in their set, everyone suffers from anxiety. It's just that some people suffer from it maybe more than others. I think maybe one of the times maybe that caused me to suffer more from it and worry a lot is being with my gran. The gran that I've got just now, she's my adoptive gran. Unofficially, she's my mum's close friend who brought me up as a grandson ever since I was about 6 months old. So I've had a great bond with her all my life. I only saw my mum's mum on occasion, and both my dad's parents died when I was quite young. My dad's dad died when I was 4, and my dad's mum died when I was 9. So I was quite close to my gran on my dad's side, and that's something I'll talk about because I've always had. I was always close with her when I was a kid, but my gran, that's still alive just now, she always worried a lot. She was like, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that, and you need to be careful, and that, I think, because I spent a lot of time with her, I second guess everything that I do. I was like, oh, should I do this? What if this happens? And what if that happens? And then so it sort of built up and built up and built up. So it was always something that was that was always there, and I never really found ways of properly dealing with it. Going through school, obviously, I worried a lot about my exams and grades and all the rest of it, and obviously coming out, that was a big stress in itself. So the later stages of secondary school were difficult enough. So going into university, that's when my anxiety got really bad. So for anyone, uni is very difficult. I was really excited as well to be going to uni. I was the first in my mum's side to go to uni. My dad went to uni back now nearly 30 odd years ago. So I was the first one in my mum's side to go to uni. So that was quite a big thing for my family. So I got to uni and I was dead excited, and life was changing, and then I realised I might have, it took a while for it to really set in, but it started affecting me, that I liked all this routine and structure, and as well, and I'm very mindful about the time, because that's the way I spent so much time with my gran, that she was always like that. She was like, we need to leave by this time to get to school and do this, and because everything, she lived just maybe a 10-15 minute walk away from the school, and just maybe a 5 minute walk. That's from Knightswood Primary. Knightswood Secondary, it was just up the road, 5 minute, 10 minute walk. So by that time I was walking myself, but if I was going anywhere, I would need to time the buses to get this bus at that time. So I was I lived a very structured life. And then when I went to uni, all of that just went. My lectures were only like between a certain time, and it was only for 2 days a week, and then I had nothing else to do the rest of the week. I took up a volunteering job in the British Heart Foundation, just to get me a bit of work experience. So I had that at the start, so I had some structure there, but then the whole sort of routine and structure of my day totally changed, and it did throw me quite a bit. And plus, I was used to seeing all these people, the same people every day, for years, and then it went to seeing them maybe once a week, to once a month, to once every few months. Yeah. And that started to sort of eat away at me, and I kept going, and I used to see my best friend every day at school, and then we would spend the weekends together. On a Saturday, I would go to his, or he would come to mine, and vice versa. And we spent a lot of time together, and then like he was busy with uni, and things changed. So that was into 2014. I finished first year. They changed the course so that I never had exams, so which took a bit of pressure off me as well. And then I started working with G4S. So the way that my course ran, I actually finished up in the beginning of May 2014, and I never went back to uni until the September 2014. So that was quite a big long summer, and I spent it working, and I was working long hours at the Commonwealth Games that were on that year, and it was a very exciting time, especially for Glasgow and being part of that. But then it really hit me when I started uni, because second year was a bit tougher. By that time, my best friend had a girlfriend, so he was away busy seeing her and trying to balance uni, and his course was intense as well. So like I never really socialised that much. I spent my evenings working with G4S, so like my social life just went down the drain, and that all started taking a toll on me, and I was starting to feel a bit lost, in the sense that I felt like I was losing all these friends, and because I never had a relationship, that I was sort of missing out on something, because my friends were all, my closer friends were all sort of in relationships or seeing someone, and so that started affecting me. Then I spoke to this guy who, and I was desperate at that point for a relationship, and past this point as well, that was when I came out to my parents in September of that year. So again, that was a liberating experience, mixed with all this that was going on in my head. And then what happened was that fell through. It really hit me, and then so it hit me around December time of 2014 into January 2015, and I started to feel really sick and down and whatnot, and I had to tell my mum, because I tell my mum everything that's really affected me, and I couldn't sleep, and I was really feeling sick, and that's when I realised I was really anxious, and that's when my mum said you should go and see the doctor. So I spoke to the doctor, and my mum she referred me to Cope, and I got on to fluoxetine, starting from about January, at the end of January of that year. So obviously fluoxetine takes a few weeks to kick in, and that really did start to help me, sort of picked me up a bit. At that point, also had something else to focus on as well, because my gran got ill that year, because I was going through the kind of breakup plus and all the other things, plus going to Cope really helped. And my gran had went out for dinner with my mum and a couple of her friends, and she got really bad food poisoning, and she was really severely ill, and she was nearly hospitalised. It was that bad. So that I was obviously caring for her, and looking after her and going to Cope. So it gave me something sort of to focus on. Then I was still on the fluoxetine, and it was helping, and I was sort of working through all this, and my best friend and I had sort of made a decision where we would try and see each other once a month. We would meet up and go for lunch or go for dinner and go to see a film, and we kept doing that for a good few years, and it was at least once a month we did it, which it made me feel better. But it was just obviously adapting to that new life, that new situation of building a new routine, and obviously accepting that people come and go in your life, and the people that I thought that would be there for a long time weren't, and it's just a part of life that I needed help to understand.
Aye, it's a sad thing when people come and go. Because again, when I was at college, I had loads of cracking college pals. Like you're saying, I seen them every day. We had lunch together, we had breakfast, we had a laugh together. Once college finished, that was it. Effectively,
Yeah.
I've hardly seen them since, and that was about 18 years ago.
Yeah, because well, after leaving uni because of it, I went to uni, graduated in 2017, and there's people, and I was kind of, after going to cope and being on the antidepressants, that kind of helped me sort of accept that this was going to happen again,
Right.
and I was more ready for it. Where the people that I spent days with every week for a few years, just I haven't seen them in years now. Some of them I keep in contact with, but others it's like school. Some people now that I've spoken to, or other friends of mine there that are not from school, they don't really speak to anybody from school, but I'm still lucky to have a couple of people that I'm still quite close to from school, and I still speak to people from uni. But again, I only see them once every few months, but that's just life.
See, when you're talking about your pals, have got girlfriends and are moving on and doing all this stuff, did you ever feel as if you were starting to get left behind?
Yeah, well, it's again, it's just a fact that when when you're wrapped up in a relationship, you want to obviously spend a lot of time with them, and if you are juggling uni, a part-time job or whatever, it is difficult to fit everything in. And for me, for a good 5 years of my life, because I went on and I done a master's as well, my social life went down the drain. I did have nights out here and there, but certainly not as much as what other students, especially because I was working part time. I had my
Yeah.
car, and obviously you can't drink and drive, so I couldn't go out as frequently as what my other friends who didn't drive at the time could go out, and they were also a very last minute. And if I had plans the next day that involved me driving, and I couldn't go out, and I worked in the hydro for nearly 5 years, so a lot of the gigs in the hydro at night, and I wasn't finishing until about 11, 12 at night, so, and I was shattered with the time that had the shift had ended, and I wasn't going to play catch up with my other friends because
Yeah.
that's never fun.
So you spoke about getting support. So you went to your GP. What was your experience like with your GP?
My GP, the first time, it was kind of like they never really, I kind of was, they never really understood what what or how to treat me. They were kind of like, a lot of GPs are more, if you've got a physical ailment or something wrong physically or physiologically, it's easier to treat. But if you're got something wrong mentally, it's basically like, here's options. I think at that point in time, especially because I was quite young, I was just still 19, turning 20 that year. I was still quite young to be on antidepressants, and my GP reluctantly put me on them because I kind of just, I'd heard about them. I was like, oh, I really need something to help me here, and my mum's referred me to cope, and but I just felt that was the only option out there, and she basically, my GP gave me them, and they did help, and I was on them for 6 months.
I'm really interested to understand the conversation that would happen between a GP and somebody presenting symptoms that you're presenting. Did they ever ask you? Obviously, the doctor asks you what's wrong with you, right?
Mhm.
But did they ever ask what's happened to you in terms of try to get to the root of why you're feeling the way you're feeling? Did that conversation take place?
I don't remember it again. This was what, nearly 5 years ago. Well, it was just over 5 years ago, but I can't remember. It was more about, how can I help you, and what sort of symptoms are you showing, and how can we treat the symptoms. It was not about what the causes were. It was more about, here's the symptoms, how can we treat them.
Aye. See, that's, again, I know the doctors are under a lot of pressure and a lot of stress, but I'm just getting the impression, the conversations I'm having with other guys, is that they go to the doctors for support, and again, they'll have a time limit, in and out, in and out, in and out.
Yeah.
I get that, right? But I think they could really be saving a lot of people a lot of stress and heartache if we just have a conversation with them.
Yeah, although again, I was still quite young at the time, and when we skip forward to the next part of the story, I had a totally different, it was the same GP. I had a different conversation with her the second time round, but I think that's obviously because I'm older.
So, see, with regards to COPE, so see, just for folk listening, COPE is a local charity in Drumchapel. It stands for Coping Over People's Emotions. They've been running in Drumchapel for well over 20 years. A cracking charity, so if there's any guys or women out there who want to get support, COPE are fantastic. You can get Kathleen on the phone, she's a lovely lassie. Really nice. So just wanted to get that out there so they know who COPE is. So with COPE, what kind of support did you get and how did you find it?
With COPE, I got a lot of mindfulness, meditation stuff, focusing on positive aspects of me, what makes me me, what are my good points, and we do diagrams, and it was sort of talking through my problems. I did a lot of sort of mindfulness meditations with guided meditations, aromatherapy, and they were all sort of very relaxing sessions. It went on for a good few weeks. At that point, it was like once every week, and it was good just to go there and have this support there from the women there.
Aye, and they're really, really nice up there, aren't they?
Yeah.
Really nice. So I'm just going to skip a wee bit ahead and go to just your experience with relationships, Christopher. What's that been like? And can I just ask, see your first relationship? Were you quite nervous going into that? With it being with another man? Were you nervous about that?
Yeah, well, obviously at the end of 2014, 2015, that never worked out. At that point in time, I was 19, and obviously I felt a bit liberated to be just coming out. And I'd speaking to this guy, and a lot of people, especially with online apps and stuff, they're still sort of finding themselves and just sort of looking about, basically. So there was one guy that I chatted to, and I met up a couple of times, and it was kind of going somewhere, but the guy was a wee bit older. He was 25, and at that point, age is something that it's not really mattered to me. If someone's older, they seem obviously more mature, but then when you actually get to that age, you go, well, no, they don't have actually figured all this out. Because I was like, I wouldn't want to go out with a 19-year-old. Because obviously but at that point I was still unsure of myself, and I'm still sort of you're figuring yourself out as a person growing up. But yeah, I started talking to this other guy who was in the year above me in uni, but he studied a different course. So we met up a few times, and things went from there, and we met up, and it sort of happened naturally, but then it was more of a friendship, because it was quite daring and nerve-wracking, because it was with another guy, and I think because we were still pretty young in our early 20s, we had commitment issues because we were both studying, we were both working part-time, and I think things were still changing where you obviously hear a lot of horror stories about homophobic attacks and attacks on other members of the LGBT community, and that kind of puts a lot of fear in you, and you don't, it's not as accepted to walk down the street holding hands as like many heterosexual couples do. So that was a big thing. So you were kind of looking over your shoulder and a bit wary of doing these things of showing public affection, etc. So it was quite daring. Relationship wise, I don't think at that point in time I was ready for a relationship. It was nothing to do with, again, it was more to do with me having commitment issues about, because at that point I was working part-time. My uni was very important to me, and I was putting a lot of effort into that, and I still wanted to spend a lot of time with my family, so it was very difficult for me to and try and see my friends, even though I never really had much of a social life. I went out maybe once a week, but sometimes that it ended up being like once a month. But it ended around the end of 2015. It was mutual, so that never really affected me that much. So I went from sort of dating people to it never really going anywhere. So that was it was a game that you play, but again, it's a very weird game, dating in general, just because you go and meet all these people and then it doesn't really go anywhere. Again, so, and then when you think it's going somewhere, it doesn't, and then that's a kick in the teeth. So that's basically it.
So see, when you're in a relationship with the second guy who's in uni with you, did you ever take him home to your mum and dad?
Well, yeah, he came over a few times. Again, it was a very strange relationship. We ended up being more like friends than actually like boyfriends. I don't really know why. But he had met my parents loads of times, but I never actually met his parents till further on. I don't know why that was, but again, we were both sort of still young at the time, and we don't really know what was going through each other's heads.
And when that relationship ended, what was your thought process then? Is it to get right back into another one, or just calm down for a wee bit?
It was more about sort of calm down a bit, because I'd kind of at that point already been leading a single life, because at that point when we were back at uni, because uni ended for the summer of 2015, and we saw each other maybe a couple of times a week, but it was really nothing more than that. I guess again, we were both working. We were working a lot as well, so ended up being like when he was free, I was working, and when I was working, he was free, and vice. So it never really worked out. And then I just thought, I'll just calm down a bit. And also towards the end of 2015, I had the opportunity as part of my uni course to go to Portugal for 2 months. So I was in the process of trying to sort that out towards the end of 2015 into 2016. So I knew that was coming, so I didn't really want to commit myself to anything.
Yeah. And that leads me to my next question, mate, about because you've done a fair bit of travelling, especially at such a young age, man. So where have you been, and which script were that?
So when I was younger, as a kid, as I said, I was very homely. I never really liked going anywhere. I had plenty of opportunities to go away. My aunt and uncle go away nearly every year to Spain, to Lanzarote. So I had opportunities to go with them when I was younger, but I just was too scared to go away and leave my parents for a week. And I just saw, when I was in uni, I saw this opportunity, and I studied biomedical science at uni. So they do a 15-week placement in an NHS lab, and that gives you the portfolio to go on and become a biomedical scientist. And I'd been shortlisted for the placement, but I never got it. So my program leader gave me and another guy the next best thing was to go to Portugal. Wow. So it was an amazing experience. Now it was actually my first time flying as well, and because my mum has a fear of flying, so we never really we went on holidays as a kid, and I went around the UK and all these places, but and caravan holidays and all the rest of it. But we're not in camping and these are all great, but we never really went anywhere abroad. I'd been to France with the school in 2008, and that was a long journey because we basically got bused from here down to Dover to get the ferry over.
Horrible
and
journey.
It was. It felt like it took ages.
It did take ages, that's out, Chris. I've done it as well, mate, I've done it.
So that was the only time I'd really been in a different country. So basically it took a while to obviously book flights, book accommodation and all the rest of it in 2016. So I went I went to Portugal at the end of May. It was the 20th of May. I flew out here and got to Portugal, and I was there for 2 months basically till I got home, I think the 19th of July. So it was just about 8 weeks, and I loved it. It was quite difficult emotionally because it was the longest I'd ever been to away from home. It turned into basically an 8-week holiday, because I was to go and work in a health school as part. So it was just to assist with some research, but it never really worked out. Cut a long story short, it never really worked out the way that I wanted it to, because I thought that I would be starting. I flew out, arrived in Coimbra on the 20th of May, and I was supposed to start in the health school on the 23rd, the Monday the 23rd. So I get to the health school and we're basically, oh, well, it's not actually starting to the 2nd of June. And the 2nd of June was actually my 21st birthday. So that was an experience being in Portugal for my 21st. So anyway, the work really wasn't there for us. They tried to accommodate us as best as they could, but out of the 8 weeks I was in the lab for maybe like 2 weeks out of the 8 weeks, so the other 4 weeks were spent partying basically.
Oh, yeah.
So I definitely drank a lot, and over that period, it was definitely an experience. I loved it. Just obviously being immersed in the culture, and I made a lot of friends, temporary friends, through it. Because Coimbra is 2 hours away from Lisbon, and it's a beautiful small city, about a third of the size of Glasgow, so it's pretty small. And it's a beautiful city. The weather was beautiful most of the time, and drink was cheap. So I had a great time over there. I actually have a t-shirt. I did a shot challenge over there. I had to down 5 shots in 5 minutes, and all the shots were absent.
You must have been steaming.
hammered, yes, and it was amazing, just how quickly it hit me. It hit me like a train. I'll tell you the story. We had me and my best friend done it, and he came over and visited. He'd been doing some travelling as well, so he came and visited for the weekend. On basically we'd a few nights out. On the Friday night, they'd actually invited us, the people that I was working with invited us to like their grad ball, and we get bussed out. I'd paid €39 for transport from like the health school and back, a 3-course dinner and an open bar.
What?
And it was out of this world, and we get bussed to like some fancy hotel somewhere in the middle of nowhere. It was crazy. And so the night after that was the shot challenge. And so I did the shot challenge, and the first shot challenge was they got a saucer, like a wee saucer. They put an egg yolk in the middle of it.
Ugh.
They poured the absinthe on it, which was like bright fluorescent green, and set it on fire, and I had to suck it up through a straw.
Oh my, come on, man.
It was crazy.
That's just no right.
Aye. So yeah, I definitely had a bad hangover on the Sunday.
So can I
yeah.
just ask you quickly then? See, when you're having this, like, it sounds like you're having the time of your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you still on your antidepressants at this point? And
No,
are you still suffering from anxiety or anything?
Well, I'd actually chosen to come off the antidepressants in July of 2015. I didn't feel the need to be on them that long. And I felt like at that point, after going to cope, that everything had sort of sorted itself out. And after going to cope, I found it a bit. I felt like everything had been basically sorted out, and I felt like there was no need for to be on the antidepressants anymore, so I'd been off. When I was in Portugal, I suffered a lot from homesickness, and I got quite emotional quite a few times. I was in quite regular contact with my family and with friends, and obviously being away for my 21st. I never actually did anything that massive for my 21st, because I actually was in the health school the next day. I didn't want to go wild. So I did go out for a few drinks and whatnot, but it really wasn't anything spectacular. But still being there, and I Skype called my family. My gran actually came up and we video called from here, so that was quite a good thing. But yeah, when I was there, I don't remember feeling anxious. I actually remember feeling so liberated and free because I was in another country. Again, I kind of felt maybe a bit scared because I didn't really know the place that well. But over the 8 weeks, I explored and I got to know the culture and got to know the areas that I lived in, and it was I got used to it, and at least I was there with somebody that but I was still getting to know him, because in uni I wasn't really that close to him, so we spent time as well getting to know each other. So it was a very interesting experience, and I took a lot from it.
Do you think there's a connection there where you're feeling better and your environment changing?
I think actually getting away from a place, and a lot of people who maybe are going through a stressful situation like to go get away from it all and start afresh somewhere new, because it does sort of take you out of the situation, and just being physically removed from an area where maybe triggers you, it might help you to sort of help yourself.
Aye. And do you think that feeling you had and kind of triggered your passion for travel? Because you've travelled quite a bit, haven't you?
Yeah, because obviously, because since that I caught the travel bug, as they called it, and so I never actually travelled until 2018. Because what had happened was I came back from uni and I basically was straight into fourth year. Fourth year is a tough year, and at that point, during the summer of that year, my best friend had been travelling. He came and stopped over and visited for the weekend, and went to different places like Germany and other places. So it was always something on my mind. Once I finish uni, I want to travel. So what happened was I came back when it started fourth year, went through fourth year, concentrated in that, and then I was encouraged to go on and do a master's, because after I finished uni, my undergrad course, I felt a bit confident, but then I wasn't really sure where to go career-wise. I knew I wanted to work in a lab, but I didn't. I really enjoyed the research, so I felt I kind of wanted to get a bit more hands-on experience. So that's when I started applying for master's courses towards the end of at the end of my academic year in 2017. So I applied for MRes courses, which are Masters of Research, which are more lab-based than theory-based. So I was encouraged to do that because I didn't feel confident enough to go in and do a PhD at that point. So I went on, and after getting through those 4 years of uni, it was very liberating, very confidence boosting. But then I went to Strathclyde. I went to UWS in Paisley for the 4 years, and then I went to Strathclyde to do my Masters of Research. So that was a tough year in itself. So that was the end of 2017 into 2018. So that was a tough year because I had a lot of lab work, and lab work doesn't always work out, and I was basically left to get on with it. My supervisor would show me what to do and then leave me to it. So I was left to my own devices, and that was inert because for my undergrad, I was getting supervised all the time by a PhD student. So I had, at that point, my supervisor's PhD students were finished in the lab, and they were just writing up their thesis. So there was no one else in the lab to kind of help me, which was very nerve-wracking myself. And then my supervisor helped me along, and I get quite emotional with that because I made a lot of mistakes, and it was very hard going, but it made me more resilient because my experiments, I would run for the week and then it wouldn't work out, and it was awful. It was just like I'd spent all this hard work and effort in uni Monday to Friday, because with the mixture of the lab work, I had other classes on top of that that were taught. So I had to balance all that plus work part-time, and then when I was working in the lab, my experiments wouldn't work out, and then that would be me having to repeat it again the next week. And Cup Friday would come and I would go, oh, fuck. I've had enough of this, but it built my determination, and I was already a really determined person, but it made me even more resilient and determined because I knew that I could do it, and I pushed through, and I finally got results after months with help of my supervisor and finding out where the problems were. And after finishing my first draft of my thesis, handing that in September of 2018, that's when I decided I need a break, I'm going away. So I went, and my best friend was like, you need to do this, you need to do this. And again, travelling by yourself is a very scary thing. And my gran, especially when I told her, was like, oh, you need to be careful, and I'll not be able to sleep. But and she was worried a lot when I was in Portugal, but I phoned family and that every day when I was there. And I thought, but so I booked flights to Berlin, and because my best friend had been in Berlin umpteen times over that past few years. So I went to Berlin and I went to Krakow because it was always on my bucket list, as you could say, to visit Auschwitz. Because I knew that was in Poland. So I ended up going. I got the flights from here. My dad dropped me off. No, I never. I got a taxi from here at the airport, and I got the flights over, and I stayed in the hostel. I thought I need to book into it's a chain called the St Christopher's Hostel. So I went, I need to stay there, obviously, because of my name. So I had a great time in Berlin. I was there for about 3 days. Saw the places and done a lot of walking tours, and again it was a very strange experience and quite scary being on my own, but when you're staying in a hostel, it actually forces you to be in a situation where you're having to speak to other people. And when you do go abroad, and it puts us to shame that a lot of people, especially in other European countries, can speak English very well. And it puts us to shame because we can barely speak French. I done standard grade French, and we don't obviously have it in our curriculum, but it is there, but it's not really as well spread to learn a second language, because everywhere you go, everybody knows English. So, but when I was staying in the hostels, you meet people from all over that are staying. So you start chatting to them and getting to know them and having conversations, and that's really exciting, because then you can get to share your stories with other people that are traveling, and maybe they've just finished school or they've just finished uni and taking a gap year, or doing this or doing that. So it's a great experience just to go traveling and to see other countries and to share your story with other people. So after I'd been to Berlin and Krakow, and going to Krakow's beautiful, and then just outside it is Auschwitz, and I booked the tour, and it was actually a full day. It was quite a long day, because I get picked up early in the morning and get driven out to Auschwitz. In which consists of 3 camps. It's quite big. You don't realise how big it is. And then I went down the salt mines as well. That was a better end to the day, because obviously going to Auschwitz is a very solemn and eye-opening experience. So you sort of end on a sort of happier note with the salt mines. So that going there, it was really eye-opening, and at that point I was like, I need to travel more, but at that point in time I was like still deciding whether I wanted to pursue a PhD or go and work in industry. So it was a big decision, and I chose to try and apply for jobs and get some money. So when I started my job in 2019. That was, so rewind a bit. applied when I came back. I was still working for G4S, and while I was doing that, I was applying for lab-based jobs. And I kept getting a lot of knockbacks, and I knew that I would, but I just kept applying, and it was quite demoralising getting all these knockbacks. And then eventually I got a few interviews. One that was quite last minute. I turned up, and it was through an East Kilbride. And then my second one is actually the job that I'm in just now, and then the third one was for a position through in Livingston. So it was the 12th of December 2018. It was a very bittersweet day. I woke up, I had just been to a Def Leppard concert in the Hydro the previous night, and I woke up that morning to get a phone call saying that I'd been offered the job up in the science park. So I was over the moon with that after all the weeks and the hundreds of applications that I'd put through. And then I was celebrating and buzzing about starting this new job in January of the following year. I thought new year, new start, and it was very exciting. And then that day, that evening, I get a phone call from my grand sister saying that she'd been in an accident on. She'd met my gran in the town. Well, my gran had met her in town at St Enoch Square, and she got on the bus. And when she put her past and then got her ticket and then went to sit down, and the bus had started before she sat down, and she went flying back and hit her head off the back. She hit the back of her head off the floor, and she had to get taken to hospital. She got discharged from hospital. That she was only in for a few hours. The x-rayed her, said nothing was broken, and sent her home. And she already suffers from back pain to begin with, so it was exacerbated by the fall, and she was in a terrible state where she's a very independent woman, and she has been for a long time, and it went to where we had to do everything for her. I get her shopping in anyway because she wasn't at that point able to get a lot of heavy stuff, so I was still getting her shopping at least once a week, but I had to get like the bare essentials and do all the extra bits and do washings for her and do all the other wee bits and bobs around the house that she couldn't do. And especially just so close to Christmas as well, and it sort of put a real dampener on the whole festive period. She managed to, because we'd bought tickets and it was a surprise, we bought tickets to see Andre Rieu, you know, the composer, like the orchestra composer, a guy, the conductor, and classical music. So we thought we'll do something special for Christmas, so we'll go there. And we went to the Hydro, and she managed to get out, but she was still in a lot of pain, and she's already on strong painkillers for her back, and that wasn't really helping much. So she never really had a good Christmas. Like, she just sort of receded into herself. She just had she just was in that much pain that she just couldn't talk to anybody. Like, I talked to my gran on the phone every day, and she just maybe said a few words, and that was it. And she was really, really bad, and it was a really worrying time. And what had happened was, it was Boxing Day. I'd went down, and I still wasn't happy, and she I phoned NHS 24 and I was like, look, this is a doctor gave her these patches and he'd come out to see her and she was in no fit state to go in a car to go up to the doctors. So we got a doctor out. He came out and he gave her these patches. They never done anything. And then he was reluctant to give her anything stronger because they are now more reluctant to give anything stronger out. The emergency doctor came out on Boxing Day. He gave her, I think it was codidromol or something like that. That still never, no, it wasn't dihydrocodeine, it was codidromol or something like that. And that really did nothing. When you kind of get a sense of false hope when you're thinking, this will finally stop the pain because you don't like to see her suffering.
Yeah.
So that done nothing, and then finally, I think this was actually the Friday the 27th, I think it was, and we finally called the doctor out, and her doctor came out and he went, I'm going to try your morphine. And this had been, a good couple of weeks that she'd been in a severe pain. And we're like, oh, finally, he's going to give her something that's going to help. So he says, well, morphine's really strong and you need to find out the correct dosage to use. So what happened was he gave her a set dosage to take. And it's sort of like the fluoxetine. It gradually takes time to build up in the body. So it starts off with low doses and then it builds up. So, but this, I remember my gran was starting to lose the will to live. She was in that much pain that she just wanted anything that would just stop it. So what had happened was that the doctor gave her liquid morphine, and then he says, when we've found out the correct dosage, we can then transfer that onto a tablet form, and you just need to take one tablet a day. So Monday came, and I remember going down, and I remember talking to her on the Sunday. I checked on her on the Saturday. The Sunday I phoned her, and she was still kind of starting to feel the effects, I think, but it still wasn't enough. And she was like, I need to take it into my own hands, or words to that effect. And I went down on the Monday and she was absolutely away with the fairies. I think she'd taken too much or something, and she had no idea what time of day it was, what day it was, anything. Yeah. And it was just the most heartbreaking thing that I could, because just to see your gran in that way, it was just horrendous. And that really, really affected me. But the thing was that she was actually really contented. She was away with the fairies, but she wasn't in any pain.
Yeah.
But the thing was that we had to look even more after her, because she didn't know what day it was, and she didn't have a clue. So we had to control her medication, because she took one tablet extra than what she should have done, which wasn't that bad, but she was still she wasn't in any pain. So it was still a very worrying time, and a new year came. So my friend that just lives down the road from her was having a party. It was a joint party because his brother was just turning 25 and it was New Year. So we went. I thought I'll just go in and check. I actually stayed the night as well with my gran one of the nights. I think that was actually Boxing Day into the 27th, or one, because I was that. No, it was when she took too much medication. I stayed the night because I was quite worried about her. And then after we got the situation under control, I just called in a few times a day, and my mum would do the same and whatnot, and her son would do the same. And it was very worrying. And then New Year came, went, called in. She was settled, and that, but it was still hard to see her in that way because she wasn't my gran. It was just like
Yeah.
some shell that was just sitting there and spaced out. So that I was still very, very emotional, and I just wanted to have a good time. So what happened was that New Year was horrendous because I ended up going there drinking far too much. I downed like a 70 cl bottle of Southern Comfort within about 2 hours or something like that, and then ended up spewing up everywhere. And then one of my friend called me a taxi, and it was like some sort of scene out of EastEnders. It was that dramatic. It was like me crying in the back of a taxi, and it was just like something out of EastEnders. It was that whole bit, and then towards, so basically that had but sort of New Year, she hadn't a clue it was New Year, and then the following week, that's when I started my new job, and she started sort of plateauing at that point because the levels of morphine had started to come down, so she was sort of becoming herself again,
Yeah.
which was sort of more, it was quite good to see. So obviously starting my first proper job, it was very nerve-wracking going there first week, and then I was balancing that, trying to look after my gran, and then I was also speaking to somebody else that I went on a date with, and that just ended up at the start because it sort of exploded. It went too fast, exploded. That was another heartache. So I was dealing with that, and then that was the beginning of February. So I was trying to deal with that, look after my gran, and concentrate on my work. And I knew that my life had changed dramatically again. I gave up working for G4S. I wasn't really doing many shifts. I kept it going because I was doing my 6-month probationary period. I also put a lot of pressure on myself to do really well in my job and make a good impression, and that made me really anxious, and all the stress of my gran, etc. That was all building up and building up. So April came, and my gran was just starting to get back out. The pain had sort of started to ease off a bit. She was starting to go out again, and when I was in work, it was a Wednesday, and I got a phone call from my grandson to say that my gran had been taken to hospital because she had a stroke. And
Wow, man.
I held it together in work, and then I just kind of lost at that point. That it was a really worrying time, and we knew something had happened before that, but we couldn't prove it. We thought it was just the medication because she started saying the wrong words and the wrong things, and it was. So for a good few weeks, it was spent running back and forth to the hospital a few times a week, going to her when she finally got out, and that was about, I think she spent a good couple of weeks in, because she was in the Queen Elizabeth, and then right next to the Queen Elizabeth there's like a recovery sort of stroke unit, where she was there. It was sort of rehabilitation, and she actually recovered really, really quickly. So that in itself was good to see, and it made me feel a bit at ease. But it's still, obviously, the damage had been done, and it was difficult to watch her like that. So all of this was going on, plus the breakup. But again, it sort of took my mind off the breakup. It was obviously I had to care for my gran and focus on my job. So I had all these things in March as well. I found out in January when I was in when I just started my first week, I was in like a training course in work, and they found out that they're getting a big inspection in March. So at that point in time, everybody was up to high door in work because the FDA, you know, they're American, they come because we produce or we test vaccines and stuff that go out and are used in America. The FDA
It's the
can
Food and
audit
Drinks
us.
Association, isn't it?
Food and Drugs Association.
Drugs, aye.
So they audit us, and it's usually every few years. So they were due one. So basically, they came out, and everybody's up to high door. Everybody's stressed out, and there's quite a few on our team. Who are new, including myself, and we're really sort of stressed out. It's really emphasised to us as individuals, as a department, that you need to work hard. You need to do your best and make sure you're doing everything correctly, and this might happen, that might happen, and it was really quite a stressful period. So it was over and done with within a week, but it was quite a stressful week. Plus I was doing longer hours because we had a backlog of work. I was trying to balance looking after my gran plus balance sorting out my thesis, because I got all the corrections back. There wasn't a lot to do, but I had that to do as well. So again, all that time was quite
So Chris,
stressful.
see with all this stuff going on, right? Where is your head at?
But it's all over the place. I'm just sort of like going with the flow. I was stressed out, and I was having all these, and I still do to a certain degree, but that's just my work, and that's just my mind. And I have always had really vivid dreams, but I was having all these sort of bad dreams about work that were just like, this bad thing would happen, that bad thing would happen. It was horrible, and I couldn't get to sleep, and I would be losing sleep and stressing out and worrying about all these other things. It was quite bad.
It sounds like it, mate. So with the situation with your wee granny, right? Again, he just goes back to the bus situation. Do you have any resentment or anger towards that driver for that
Well,
happening?
hi, because what had happened was I had we put in a claim to First Bus, and I done it for my gran, and I typed up a letter, and I sent it I sent in a complaint, and they got back to me, and they basically just says, we are going to investigate this. So they got back to me. I can't actually remember the dates, but I basically just wrote a letter explaining the situation, what had happened on the day. Here's the information on my gran's bus ticket. This is what happened. So they get back to me. They just said, we'll investigate it. Then maybe a few weeks get past, and I phoned them back, and I'd not heard anything. And then they said, the driver said that he was 90%, it was 90 or 99% sure that my gran was sitting in a seat when he took off.
Wow.
And I was like, I never, because my parents and that warned me, don't start an argument on the phone, leave that for the solicitor to deal with that. And I was like, right, okay. But I was like, nah, we're not happy, because at that point we didn't know whether to contact a solicitor or not, but if they took liability for it, we weren't going to take any further. But then, because he said, I'm 90% sure that your gran was sitting in a seat at the time.
Right.
And I was thinking, well, if she was sitting in it at the seat at the time, she would have fallen forward, not backwards. Mm-hmm. And she fell onto her head, or onto the back of her head, not her front. So anyway, that was, again, I was really angry, I think, at the driver, because I know what buses. I don't take buses often, but I know what they're like. Like, they don't give older people or people with mobility issues a chance to get on, to get to a seat, because they are just busy thinking about getting to the next stop. Because I know what buses are like, that they can be late and all the rest of it. So I did feel a bit. I did feel anger towards the driver, but again, it's a human error that it could have cost my gran her life, but has caused her lifelong damage.
Yeah.
That has affected her
And
into this year.
as a byproduct, it affecting her. It's affected your whole family effectively.
Yeah. It has, but again, it's one of those things that happens, and I've sort of grown to and moved on, and but again, it has changed things, but it's one of those things you just need to sort of live with.
Yeah, that's sad, mate. It's a shame,
Yeah.
man. Born in better times, Christopher. Men Matter Scotland. How did you hear about Men Matter?
Well, I was just going to, before I Myanmar, I was just going to continue with the travelling, because I was going to say, but I travelled to in that year. I thought, well, I've saved up money, and with my new job, and I went to trip. I went to back to Berlin a few times. I went to Amsterdam. I went to Barcelona. I went to Rome, and all these places. And I just wanted to sort of get out there and see more of the world, and enjoy my holidays, and enjoy the money that I was earning.
I'm a big believer that if you travel, it doesn't just fill your soul.
Yeah.
But I think it makes you a better and more interesting person.
Yeah.
And any ignorances you once had soon disappear. I went to Kenya to live for 2 weeks. It was a church thing with my work. And we lived in a poverty wee place called Matu. Cracking wee place, lovely, lovely people. I couldn't meet nicer people. But I'm not a religious person at all, right? Not at all. I used to be a wee bit dicky about it.
Yeah.
But when I went there, they're all super religious.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, they were super nice. And it just changed my whole attitude towards people who do believe in gods or whatever. And it just kind of taught me to just mind my own business a wee bit with certain things. And I think when you do travel and you do experience new cultures and people and just different things, it just changes your mindset.
It does. It puts everything into perspective. So after travelling, and I wanted to do more travelling and fit it around my schedule, but I kind of still had a lot of stressful situations, again with looking after my gran in that year and whatnot. And then the end of 2019, I started seeing somebody else, and I thought, this time it's for real. It's going to work out, and it didn't. I put a lot of effort into this relationship, and it was all sort of thrown back in my face, and it really hit me hard. And what happened was, after having a stressful few, it continued on into 2020, January 2020 into February, and then the relationship ended in the beginning of February, and it just hit me. It destroyed me, and what happened was.
Sorry, mate. Right, listen, I'm need to leave. Thanks, darling. Oh, wait a minute, I'm in a meeting, darling. Look, you need to leave. I will, I promise. 2 seconds, mate.
Yeah.
One. Go.
So, at the beginning of February, the relationship ended, and I'd put a lot of effort into this relationship, and I just felt like my whole world had just come crumbling down. And I just felt completely lost because I just felt like I'd lost everything. And it was at the end of a very stressful week at work, and I'd put a lot of pressures on myself, and I hadn't really, again, going back in time, I kind of just had been sort of kicking the can down the road with properly dealing with my anxiety, and it was all building and building and building and building, and then it just sort of broke, and it really truly hit me like a ton of bricks. And I just couldn't. That week I lost sleep. I just was so worried because I knew that the end of the relationship, I knew something had changed. And I knew it was coming, but I just, with all this self-doubt in my mind, I was like, it's not going to work out, it's not going to work out, because the past several relationships I hadn't worked out. I had all this belief in my head that it wasn't going to work out, and I was just trying to tell myself, no, you're talking a load of nonsense, and don't listen to yourself. And then ended up, all of it was true, and it happened on the Saturday. The Saturday night, I never slept a wink. Sunday, I was just totally drained, and then I had to be all right for work on the Monday. I went into work on Monday. I still hadn't slept much. I just felt so physically and mentally and emotionally drained, that I just couldn't function. I couldn't think straight. And I told people in work, and because I'd put pressure on myself to tell people in work, and that before about coming out to them, but about the relationship, and I was so happy and excited for this new relationship, and because a lot of them were all talking about their relationships, I wanted to talk about my relationship, and I told them about this relationship, and then I had to go and tell them I get dumped, and it wasn't a good experience, and it was, I just felt so drained, and because I hadn't slept, and I just felt totally numb inside. And that's when the suicidal thoughts, I never really thought much of it in time, but it was more like I just felt empty, completely empty inside. And I was driving home from work. I was tired, and I was driving home from work, and I remember sitting at the roundabout just on Maryhill Road, and I remember seeing this big Arctic lorry, and I just thought, I wonder what would happen if I drove out in front of it. Obviously I knew what would happen, but I just felt like I wanted something to happen, just because I felt totally numb and empty inside, that I wanted to feel something. I wanted something drastic to change. And at that point in time, I'd started trying to get into a routine of my exercises. I'd been swimming, tried that. I've always went swimming, but it never really fitted in with my routines. So I tried getting up early in the morning and doing sort of exercise, fitness classes on YouTube, and it was kind of working out, but it was a bit rushed. In the morning, get ready to go to work, because after work I was just too tired to do it. So, and plus this was during the winter months, it was dark when I'd finished work and you were tired anyway. So, and then it hit me, this had went on, and I knew what a breakup was like, but then it felt different. It felt like I felt so dark. I was in this dark place, and it wasn't lifting. I just started losing interest, and this was over the next couple of weeks. I started losing interest in all the things that I used to enjoy, like watching TV, listening to music. I just got no enjoyment whatsoever out of anything. and I would be crying on a daily basis, and I confided in a few people in work, and I confided in my parents, and I'm a person that likes to get up early in the morning. I like my routine, and I just felt like that there was this force holding me to my bed. I just had no motivation whatsoever to get up out of bed, and I'm not like that. And that's when I knew something was totally
Yeah.
wrong. So what had happened was, I kept going, and I was like, well, I'll wait and see. And then it still never lifted, and about 2 weeks had went past, and my mum phoned Cope, and I got a doctor's appointment. So I went to the doctors, and at that point Cope had moved. So I'd went to what had happened was, I went to the doctors, and I was like, look, I've had this breakup, and I've had this really bad anxiety for a long time, and I've not really been dealing with it. And it's been really bad, and I've been feeling sick, and I've not been sleeping, and I feel quite depressed, and I'm showing symptoms of depression. And my doctor was like, well, she said, well, how can we help? Do you think that going for sort of counselling will help? And I says, well, maybe a mixture of both sort of medication, because at that point I knew that the stigma sort of around medication, and also that I'd been on medication before, and I kind of felt like I don't want to be on medication for a long period of time. But I kind of wanted it, but I didn't really want to go down that road. But
Yeah.
I was kind of at that point sort of willing to try anything. So what happened was, I'd went, and I spoke to my doctor, and she was like, she was like, oh, here, you can have the fluoxetine, the same as you had a few years ago, and you can just let me know in a few weeks how it's working, because at that point in time she wasn't as reluctant to give me it, because I was 24, I
Yeah.
was older, and I was more of a maturer adult than a teenager. So that was fine, and I went to the chemist, because my doctor's is in Drumchapel, and I just went across the road to the chemist, and I went to put my prescription in, and she'd also given me a number to phone there's a mental health team in Partick. It's like the Northwest Glasgow mental health team. So she gave me the number for them to self-refer myself. So I was in the chemist, and I put in my prescription. I was just sitting waiting, and on the counter there was a bunch of leaflets, and I picked one up, and it said Men Matter Scotland. And I was like, oh, are you feeling lonely? Are you feeling anxious? Are you just want to get out the house, or what's to that effect? Or we can. So I was looking into it, and they gave you sort of contact details. And at that point, I'd deactivated Facebook. Well, I'd reactivated it and then deactivated it. So I never really went on it. Then I was like, well, at that point, I'd kind of looked, and I heard on the internet that Men Matter had moved into the where Cope used to be, and they'd built this hub up and whatnot. But I never really looked much into it. So anyway, I thought, oh, this is just going to be like a bunch of older guys who are just going to be sitting about talking about their problems, and because of it said meeting in a charity shop, and I was a bit sceptical of it at the start. And so anyway, I continues on, and things weren't getting much better, and I was in work, and I still was feeling pretty low, and still was I was still trying to sort of build a new routine, and start of I still hadn't really found anything to sort of make me feel happy. And I was in work, and for a while one of my colleagues had told me about knitting and how knitting had helped her with anxiety. And I was just that desperate to try anything. And for years, knitting had always been on my mind because my mum was an avid knitter years ago. She sort of stopped, and then she showed me when I was a kid, and then I never really took it up. And then I thought I should try this a go, give this a go. So I went to Aldi's, were selling lovely wool, so I ended up buying nice wool in Aldi's and bought a set of needles on Amazon. So I went and I started, and my mum showed me, and I learned from the best, and it was the one thing that saved me. I think it was literally the one thing at the start that has saved me, apart from listening to music, because and I was explaining this to my mum, I still felt like there was some dark force holding me and keeping me in this dark place, and sometimes I was kind of seeing the light, but then I was falling back down again, and that's what I was explaining to the people at Cope, was that I felt like when I was in bed, I was still finding the motivation to get up out of bed, whereas I'm first thing up out of bed, get ready to go sort of guy. And coming home from work, and I just had lost interest in everything, and knitting was the only thing that helped me. Just the repetition of the stitches, and it was one of those things that even if you do a couple of rows, you can see the progress as you go along. And I might only do maybe 1 or 2 rows. I have got quicker over the past several months, but even if I just spend time focusing on that, I'm not trying to keep my mind off of other things. And I was seeing the progress through the week. So that was the only thing that saved me. One of the only things that saved me, and then I finally plucked up the courage to go to Men Matter, to reach out to them. So I reactivated. No. What happened was I still used Messenger without Facebook. So I sent a message to the Men Matter main Facebook page, and I sent them a message, and I was like, look, I'm 24, it just explained the situation. I suffer from anxiety and depression. I'm looking to join. And I can't remember exactly when I sent that. It was during the week, and I never got a reply back. And I was quite surprised and whatnot. So I thought I better just go. So anyway, I plucked up the courage, and I thought I better just go. So I went to the chest, where you used to hold it, in the chest heart and stroke shop, and I was so nervous, and I was just looking around the shop and waiting, and then it never dawned on me that you'd moved. So I'd been hanging about this shop for the past like 15 minutes, and I went up to the people in the shop, and I said, look, is the talking group on today? Oh, they've moved, blah blah blah. And I was like, oh yeah, they have. So anyway, I rushed down, and that point, because obviously I knew where it was because I'd been to Cope there. So I went, and I got out of the car, and I was shitting myself. I was like, I was so nervous, and I went up to the door, rang the buzzer, and I was late because it started at 3 o'clock on the Sunday, and I was like, this was about 5 past. By the time I drove from the shopping centre down and parked and got out the car and walked up, and I was kind of a bit reluctant to go in because I've got this fear of being late. And I rang the buzzer, and I went, and it's the chat. It's now or never, because I'm literally at the door. I need to take that step. and what happened was I rang the buzzer and they let me in, and then this guy, some random guy, which I later found out was Peter Ritchie, came and welcomed me in, and I just started the talking group had just started, so we went in and it was such a daunting experience going in, and there was a massive group of guys there, all all sitting in a circle, and then Gregor welcomed me in, and he got me a seat, and we sat down, and I shared some of my stories, and we all chatted, and it was an amazing experience, just sort of being there and hearing other guys' stories that were struggling with their mental health. And it was a very what's the word, not uplifting, but sort of there was a weight lifted from my shoulders, just being there and being in the company of other people and other guys that were also struggling with their mental health. And I was really glad that I went. And I think I left there, and I was like, and Gregor was like, "Oh, here's the schedule." He actually gave me I think he gave me a tour. No, I can't remember if he gave me a tour on that Sunday, but I think the following Wednesday there was a games night. So I went round there, and there wasn't many guys had turned up. And so anyway, it was just basically me and Gregor most of the night, and I spoke to like a few other guys, and all I can, and I've said this to other people, all I can say is it felt like a spiritual. I'm not religious, but it was very spiritual. It just felt like some sort of spiritual awakening, that I'd found this place, that I felt like this calling to be there. And I remember sitting down, and Gregor had put this video on of Jed Neal, and he'd been talking about his struggles growing up, and I realised, well, my life, I might have my own struggles, but a lot of people may have had other struggles growing up, or with their childhoods, or other experiences that have affected them growing up. And I realised that my situation wasn't just as bad. It was obviously what I was feeling was bad, but it put things into perspective, and I went, look, I felt like to myself, if I'm finding the light, I can help other people find the light. And it was and from that moment, and I left that night, and I just felt like I can't explain it apart from like it was some sort of spiritual awakening. And Gregor said words to me. He says, "Don't be a stranger," and I've never been a stranger. What happened was, obviously, the night I was supposed to go the following week to because Jed Neal was supposed to be visiting the hub.
Right, yeah.
So I was supposed to be going, and then obviously there's a lot of stuff about lockdown and stuff, and then I was a bit wary of it. So then I'd emailed, and I basically said, look, I don't think I'll be able to go just because of the lockdown and stuff. I don't think it actually happened, but I never heard from them again. Because what had happened was I'd sort of lost contact for maybe a week or two. I think everybody was adjusting to lockdown life, and I was starting a new load of shifts and work and adjusting to that, and I'd started on the fluoxetine, had properly started in my system at that point, so everything was starting to sort of look up. And then I reached out again, and I was like, oh, what's happening? Because I hadn't really heard, and I think I'd walked past to get a haircut or something, and I noticed the shutters were up and I was like, cause I messaged Gregor and I was like, cause the hub open. He says no, it's not opened. It was just something. I think they were just unchecking or something like that. So anyway, that's when I found out that there was the talking groups on a Sunday. So that's when I started participating in the talking groups, and they've really benefited me. And especially, I'd only met a couple of guys face to face once or twice, and obviously I've still to meet you face to
I
face.
know. So
And
it's good because I feel like I know you, but I've
and
never actually met face to face.
That's what I was. That's what I've felt, and it's been weird over the past several months because for weeks with the talking groups, I've gotten to know all these guys, and that I've not. Some of them I have met face to face. Like I met a few of the guys on the talking groups face to face that were there the first time I went, and through also the Wim Hof sessions, I've met them. But there's obviously a lot of guys that have been on the talking groups and I've talked to online that I've still to meet. But it has obviously lockdown has been. I've heard on other podcast, lockdown has been such a mixed barrel, I think, a mixed bag, because obviously it's been drastic for a lot of people because, but it's been drastic because our life as we know it has halted. But just before this, I felt that my whole life had been halted, my whole world had come crashing down, and everybody else was going on about their daily normal lives. And whereas everyone now is in a situation where they've had to try and build some sort of new normal. And I feel that has sort of given me a bit of support and normality to my life to be able to build my own new life from lockdown. And I'm still grateful that I'm working, and along with that I've been able to build new coping mechanisms for coping with anxiety. My depression has lifted, but I still do have times where I do worry about certain things, but I've accepted now, and I've trained myself to live more in the present, and to be more mindful of taking every day by day, because that's what I had to do for the first several weeks of this year, like February into March. I just had to take it day by day, and that's what we've all had to do in lockdown, is take it each day by day, and see what it's how it's going to progress out. And we're still obviously phasing out, and there's still a lot of things left to happen, but you just need to take it day by day.
So just before we finish up then, Christopher, how important, just to let people listening know, how important has the talking groups been for you during lockdown? And what would you say to any guy who's thinking about joining the talking sessions or coming along once this is done?
The talking groups have been immensely important to me through lockdown. It is very nerve-wracking, and I still had, even though I knew Gregor and I knew a few of the other guys, obviously it is extremely daunting coming onto a group chat, talking online to someone that you probably don't know. But if you do it more frequently enough, then you start to know them and know others. But it is very difficult to make that first step, and I just encourage any guy who needs and wants help just to make that step, and the support is out there for you. No matter what your walk of life is, no matter what your story is, there is a massive support network, because Myanmar has grown exponentially, especially since I've started. and we have tried to incorporate as much as we can and do as much as we can through the lockdown via online, and also with starting up the Wim Hof sessions with in the hub, but hopefully within the next few weeks to months that we can get everything back up to normal the way it was before lockdown.
You know what I really like about what you said there, Christopher? I like how you said we. I love how you feel as if men matters your thing as well, because it is. And I really like that you're using that language, because it's not just me, Greg, and Fraser or Darius. This is it's anybody who comes. This is yours, man. This is yours. You've got a say in what happens here.
Because that's because I knew that I wanted to volunteer as well, because it's talking to other guys, it's all one massive support network, and it's all interlinked. We all support each other, and that's the way it is, and it's just going to grow immensely, hopefully over the next coming months and years, and so forth. Today was one of the first days that I've actually properly volunteered at the Wim Hof set. Well, I was actually at the Breakfast Club this morning, so Fraser and I set up and we were volunteering, and it was good, and it gave me a buzz just being there and meeting all the other guys face to face, and you meet new guys nearly all the time.
Good stuff, mate. Well, listen, I'm just going to finish by thanking you for doing this, because I think it's such an important message what you've got to talk about with regards to the LGBT stuff, but also the stresses of university and high pressure jobs and just your life pretty much. We've all got different lives, different stuff going on, and I think the more stories that are out there, the more people will benefit from it, and you're a cracker, mate.
Thanks. I've really appreciated you taking the time to do this. It's been great to share my story, and I really hope that it goes far, and so many people will be encouraged, and I'll hear it, and will be encouraged to reach out for help, because no one's ever alone, no matter how.
There you go.
I was just saying, no matter how much of a burden you think you are, and you are loved, and there are people out there who care.
Couldn't agree more, mate. Couldn't agree more. Listen, you spoke brilliant, mate. Really appreciate you doing that.
Thanks.
All right, and I will bid you a good night, because it's 12:15, Christopher. You know what I like? See when you tell your story out in the open, you almost get to take ownership of it a wee bit, and you get to realise all the stuff you've been through.
Yeah.
You think about it in your head, but you never actually verbalise it and communicate it to anybody else fully. And you've pretty much just told your whole story the night on this, and you get to hear it back as well. No doubt you'll listen to it back. And you actually get to understand you've been through all this stuff, and you're still here, still going forward.
That's what I think. Sometimes it is difficult because you've been through so much, sometimes you forget how much you've actually been through and what's got you here. And you just need that reminder, because I was like, my story's not going to be any better than anybody else's, or any, it won't be as important as others. But when I actually sat and thought about it, it really is that I've been through a lot, and it hopefully will help others.
Aye, I'm sure it will, mate. Hey, listen, I'll wait your bed.
Yeah.
I'll get her to your bed. Chris, it's been a pleasure talking to you, mate. It was class.
It was. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, mate. And listen, I can't wait to be meeting in person. That'd be brilliant, man.
It will be. It'll be someday. I can't wait for that day.
Aye, good stuff, mate.
Yeah.
Right, man.
Good night. Bye.
Bye, mate.
Bye.